It's the Chuck and Chris Show.
With Christopher German and Chuck Edson. Coming to you from Klamath County, Oregon. Now, without further ado, here's your hosts, Chuck Edson and Chris German.
Hey there, folks. Christopher German here for you, coming for the Chuck and Chris Show.
I'm Chuck.
That's Chuck. I'm Chris, and we're working together on this progress. Chuck Edson, may I introduce you to him? And I'm Chris German, and we are working on a podcast here, which is to try and educate the world about the various problems we have in the American political system. I think that's a fairly good summation of what we're trying to do here, yes?
Yes, and you got the book open there, The Politics Industry.
Well, I wanted to start this episode with a quote that I'm reading from the Catherine Gell book. We've been talking about this last couple weeks, The Politics Industry. And one of the reasons why I want to read this quote is because I think a lot of people would identify with this quote. Okay. And I'll just, without further ado, let me just read this quote. Today, most Americans can be forgiven for thinking that the current system is beyond repair. With the politics industry optimized for the benefit of the entrenched duopoly and the deck stacked against citizens, it's easy to believe that our political problems are insoluble. Calls and promises for change are made every election year, every election cycle, but go nowhere. Despite what many think, we as citizens have the power to reform politics in America and restore our democracy. History, in fact, proves it.
Okay, well, driving here tonight, this evening, I got angry I'm very disappointed with America and Americans. I believe very much in what Catherine Gell, I'll give her credit for this, I think those are her words. And we Americans have given up on the idea that we have the power to do anything politically. I think, well, it's not our fault entirely by any means. We got social media, duopoly, and doing everything it can to divide us. And we've got to overcome that bullshit and get our act together as citizens. I'm afraid it's almost like we're cowards and hypocrites. We say we want free speech, but we're afraid to say anything political.
Well, you can't. There's apathy. There's a lot of apathy.
Well, apathy is the same thing.
I don't want to call everybody cowards that's listening to this program.
I'm sorry. We're all cowards. We all want to conform. Oh, we don't want anybody to get mad at us. Well, we don't have to get mad at one another. We have to talk and figure out how to do it civilly. Damn it.
Damn it. Well, now I have to click that button that says this is for 18 years and older because we just now officially swear.
Oh, I can say much fucking worse than that.
Okay, let's start swearing then. That's fine with me. But I got to the book. Okay, I should tell you I have gotten into the book. I'm all the way up past into the second chapter, or the second part of the book, which is innovation side of it. I read through all the problems, and quite frankly, this week I think I've been blowing Chuck's phone up with quote. I said we have to say this in the show. We have to say this in the show. We have to talk about these things in the show. And the reason why I think a lot of these things need to be talked about is because I think we need to give our listeners some examples of what we're talking about.
Right.
We're kind of in the ethereal about, politics is broken. Everybody knows politics is broken. But she really draws it down to some serious, real examples of what's going on. And one of the first examples I'd like to talk about is the Hastert Rule.
Yes, yeah.
The Hastert Rule, if you don't know, Dennis Hastert was a congressman back during the early mid-'90s. He came in there with Newt Gingrich and a bunch of other Republicans, and they made this rule that the Speaker of the House has to allow a bill onto the floor for it to be even voted upon. And what happened is that it made politics in Congress completely party-driven. Because whatever the Republicans don't want in office, if they're the Speaker of the House, they don't let the Democrats in. If the Democrats don't want the Republicans, they don't let them in. So what it does is it only gives us half of the bills that can possibly be voted because it's against the political machinations that are of the people of the House. And that's completely undemocratic.
Well, it may be more than half that get there, I don't know. But any that's controversial, they call it also the majority of the majority rule, that whatever party's in control of the House, I don't know if this applies to the Senate or not. There's a lot I need to learn about politics.
Well, there's no Hastert rule in the Senate.
Okay, well, I didn't think so, but...
Because the vice president is in charge of the Senate.
Okay, well, but anyway, yeah, so the Hastert rule says that the leader can prevent a bill to go to the floor of the House unless a majority of his or her party supports it. And there have been cases where a majority of the House would pass the bill, but the majority of the majority party, the one in control at the time, Democratic or Republican, can stop it from going.
And there's a great example that she uses in the book, and I'm not going to get it perfect, but it was during the Obama administration. They were trying to fix the Affordable Health Care Plan.
Oh, yeah.
And both sides were in favor of a bill to fix the Affordable Health Care Plan. And unfortunately, because we weren't in the Democrats were not in control of the Congress at the time, the bill never came up. And Obama didn't fight for it. Nobody in Congress, Boehner didn't fight for it. So nobody fought for this part of this thing. And so we have a flawed Affordable Care Act because they couldn't fix it in Congress.
Yeah. To turn this around a little bit, there's another section in there where they're talking about a compromise between some senators, I think. Well, anyway, they came up with a bill to really try to balance our budget. And Obama, who was new in Senate at the time, said no. He blocked it. I mean, this is stuff that both parties participate in. In Obama's case, maybe in Hastert's case, they thought they were doing what was best for the country.
So if you're a fan of Trump or you're a fan of Kamala, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
because they're both politicians. They're both about the party.
Let's be in favor of the people of the United States, we the people. Let's have our voice heard. I'll get to more about that later.
Well, let me read you a quote about the Hastert rule before we move off of this, because the Hastert rule is a particularly egregious example of today's partisan legislative machinery in action. Now, standard practice of both speakers of the House of both parties, although in fact written down nowhere, the Hastert rule dictates that the Speaker will not allow a floor vote on a bill unless the majority of the majority party, the Speaker's party, supports the bill, even if a majority of the full House would like it to pass. So they will kill anything because it's just not the majority of the majority party that likes it.
Yes, the duopoly monopoly game. Yeah,
and it undoes compromise, and that's I was part of Boise State. I didn't ever tell you that. I went to Boise State,
yeah.
And I got some really good teachings in how to run a government from Boise State.
I'll bet.
And it was all about compromise. That's what they tried to teach us. Is that was about compromise. We didn't do it in my Boise State. In fact, quite frankly, it was a giant mess from what happened. But that's what Congress is supposed to do. It's supposed to be a big compromise, which is to say, you don't get what you want, I don't get what I want, but we get something in the middle that we can both live with.
It's really difficult to figure out how to... It's not that difficult to figure out how to work for compromise, but it takes some common sense and just applying some rules, I think. I watched a program about Boise State. It really intrigued me. I love the idea. I don't know how they organize it. It doesn't sound like they really try to set things up to reach. Well, I don't know. Maybe this isn't the time to go into it.
Well, Boise State is its own little machination, but we do have to talk about voting here, because that's really what we're supposed to be talking about in this episode is the problems with plurality voting.
Well, we already talked about all those.
Well, we talked about
that. This time we're trying to talk about innovations and trying to change things. Well, the point about plurality of the voting is the plurality system that we've got that promotes polarization. An outsider has no chance. It's the spoiler effect, and that the primary system, closed primaries, are designed to create polarization. The rules of Congress, the rules of our government are set up to promote polarization. We the people need to say bullshit to that. And
you are salty tonight, aren't you, sir?
I am salty. One beer did this to me.
Happy Halloween, by the way. We're
Don't give
filming
me-
this on Halloween.
Don't ask me for any goddamn candy.
Okay, we won't ask you for
Ask
candy.
for a treat. We'll give you a trick.
Well, but I understand exactly what you're saying because, quite frankly, sorry I did it again. But the idea is that politics at every level of every state legislature, in Congress, in the Senate, at the federal level, in all the different machinations that are up there with the bureaucracy, it's everywhere. Politics has invaded our system of politics, has invaded government to make it a non-functional, non-responsive, non-useful way of governing these 50 United States.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
That's what I've been trying to say, and that's the message of this book.
And I've been reading. I have read it. I've been reading it, and quite frankly, I think I'm sipping the Kool-Aid now because I understand why you're so pissed off about this stuff. Because this is utterly egregious, and she goes back all the way to Lincoln's time, and before that, all the way back to the founders, and she talks about how all of these things have come about. And she really walks through all the different parts of, and actually, it's not she and he. Michael Porter was part of this as well. But in any case, what they do is they walk through all of the politics. And so, one of the great examples they use here is that song, how Bill becomes a law.
Oh, yeah.
The after school special stuff.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in committee and I'll sit here and wait while a few key congressmen discuss.
So that is the song that is, in fact, about writing a bill.
Yeah, I'm just a bill.
Throw it out.
Just a
It
bill.
doesn't make sense anymore.
Get sent
It
up to the
doesn't.
hill.
It doesn't apply anymore. None of that applies because the new modern political era, which has come about since roughly the mid '90s, has put politics ahead of every other thing in this world than politics itself.
Well, two things. Well, just throwing a couple of things. The mid-'90s was a time where democracy was really looking good for the world. It was kind of gaining ground, and dictatorships were kind of less popular.
Well, a lot of the African
social
countries
media,
were
too.
adopting modern political thought to how to run their governments. The Caribbean was coming out of a world of colonization, and they were really emerging as stable governments. There and quite frankly, even over in Asia,
Yeah,
the
Arab Spring in like
the Arab Spring.
2011. Then the people who were fighting for democracy or fighting the dictatorships in the Muslim world were using social media then
We've never lived in a time in history.
powers got control of social media, and now we're pawns of that.
But we've never lived in a time in social history where life was more democratic than it is right now.
Potentially, for sure.
Potentially, with the power of the internet, with the power of social
That
media,
was seen as the great promise.
with the promise of all that brings to us, we have the
Information for
potential
everybody. Now
to be the most democratic as a society as we've ever been in history.
Now we're siloed into our particular
And-
channels.
Gail argues in this, and I think she's pretty exceptional in the way she argues the point.
Oh, yeah.
She argues that this is no different, where we're living right now, is no different than the time of the Gilded Age in America.
Oh, yeah.
Which was the 1880s, 1890s, where we had 4,000 families in the United States, had most of the wealth, and everybody else was poor. That's basically what we have going on right now again. We have the 1% has a lot of money, and then the rest of us are all scrapping,
Yeah.
fighting over politics.
Middle class is shrinking, and there are a lot of people out there that are young people in their parents' basements, and I don't know.
So what we need is we need forward thinkers, like what happened with Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
What happened all the way up until FDR, although your grandfather hated FDR, I know, but the point is that we had people that were fighting to make democracy good again. And we need to do that again.
My grandfather sent my father to World War II.
Wow.
He was FDR when it counted.
But we need people that will fight for this cause, that will get elected.
Let's work for this cause.
That
We don't
and we
need to
have it
fight
happening.
for it.
It is happening now. There's more entities of this United States right now that are doing ranked choice voting than ever before in history. There's a lot of places that are doing it now, and while I think maybe Oregon has maybe missed the ball on this a little bit, they're trying. They're trying to do it here as well.
Oh boy, I spent a little more time looking into voting options, and you think ranked choice voting is complicated. There are more powerful ways that get really complicated. My liberal son in Portland was complaining when he had to vote by ranked choice about some county officials in Multnomah County, and his confused father, libertarian or whatever I am anymore, was telling him, no, it's not that hard. If you don't know anything about the person, just mark them down the middle.
Well, and I've seen some examples of ranked choice voting where they have like 50 candidates running, and they're all running for the same office, and you have to have to know something about all 50 of those candidates if you're really going to make an educated choice. Which I think that is one of the big challenges with ranked choice voting, is that there's too many people running, and you have to know a lot about the race in order to really make an educated vote.
Yeah, I think if we got a group of 50 citizens together and said, and educated them about the voting system and said, let's come up with a better way, I think in 2 weekends
we could probably do it.
would.
We probably could do it.
And I think it would be something better than what we got now. Now I'm going to jump ahead to one of somebody here puts my title there as political maverick.
He is a political maverick.
So here's an idea. Well, first of all, here's a radical taxation idea. When you pay your taxes, how about you just say, I want 40% to go to national defense. I want 10% to go to Chuck Edson's account. I want 20% to go to.
But we're not responsible enough to do that.
But
There's no way the politicians of this world, the bureaucrats, would allow us to have the decision on where our dollars were going to go.
There's nothing in the Constitution that would prevent that.
There's nothing in the Constitution that'll do it.
Well,
But
let's make it happen. If we could get together, our heads together. I know to get you off the air for 5 minutes, I'll convince you.
well, good luck with that. I don't think we're going to be able to tell the government how to spend our money that specifically anytime soon.
They can figure out exactly where that 40% of my money goes into the defense budget or whatever. But yeah, there would be a lot of decisions left for our elected officials. I'm just talking about, maybe it doesn't count. Maybe that isn't the official budget, but that's a budget that the government would need to look at.
Well, and that's definitely something we should talk about on the show at some point. But
yes, we're talking.
Today we're talking about politics, and we're talking about party politics, and we're talking about voting for party politics.
No, we're not talking about voting. We talked about voting. We're talking about innovations.
Okay.
This is the third. You haven't gotten there yet. I'm sorry. But the innovations. Thank you for getting me ahead. The innovations. Catherine Gell talks about what is it?
Well, don't ruin the ending for me.
No, I hope not. She wrote this. They wrote this book in 2020.
Yeah.
And in 2019, the House had come up with a select committee for improved government efficiency or something. And they worked on a bunch of resolutions and changes and stuff. And last year, sometime in 2023, they came up with a bunch of bills and they passed them. And all of those things were to improve how our government operates. Anybody here heard of any of that?
No.
I haven't. Let me just, here's
Well, for example, okay,
deliberative democracy.
let's go on that plane that you're just talking about. $46 million has just been attributed to the Klamath tribes and to the various nonprofits around here that are working to restore the river. 46 million. It's going to be 163 million over 5 years. That's a lot of money. That is a buttload of money. And quite frankly, we don't know who decided that money. Merkley and Wyden put out a press release, said that they came up with that money. They did it. So I guess they've done. But this is the type of dollars we're talking about. We're not talking about little bits of money. We're talking about massive, massive piles of money are getting shifted around this world based upon smoke and magic.
Well, who knows? But 46 million. Let me get to the innovations part here.
Okay.
Yeah, I know I got it.
Don't ruin the ending for me.
I'm not doing it intentionally, but Catherine Gell talks about this idea of getting this select subcommittee to rewrite the rules. She does not talk about a concept that we've been promoting here, deliberative democracy.
Yeah.
I think the select subcommittee or whatever it was an assembly of the usual suspects. The big players, the big interest, it was with the big investments, the big interest, the politicians, the people. Deliberative democracy, to run that correctly, would include some of those people, but half or more of them would be citizens. People like you and I.
You're making the pledge for deliberative democracy.
I'm making the pitch for deliberative
So you're
democracy.
taking the next step beyond Catherine Gell, and
Yes,
you're
I'm
saying
taking her idea and merging it with another idea that I haven't thought of, but I'm mixing them together may be something new. It's something the ancient Athenians, Greeks thought of, and that is to have people come together. There are a lot of these. There are 9,000 or some private nonprofits in this country who are talking about the kinds of things we're talking about right now that nobody's heard of.
yeah.
Because it doesn't get any attention.
Well, and I think rather than try to take on the federal government for that, let's get somebody starting small.
Well, let's take
Which is
them
to
all
say,
at
let's
once.
take on the Oregon legislature for a sec and get them to fix their problems here and do that in a deliberative democracy sort of way.
Well, how about the U.S. government puts out like $200 million for every state to do this, and
They don't want to hear us. They don't.
I don't care if they want.
As long as the parties are in charge,
Well,
they're not going to
They're
fight
in
to get a
charge
bunch of other
because
people's
we let
opinions.
them be in charge. If we got to get our shit together and get some agreement going here,
Okay.
we're not going to be pawns to this.
Let me talk to the listener for a sec
duopoly.
here, because
Okay.
this is where Chuck goes off the rails sometimes, and
Yeah.
he wants to do deliberative democracy to fix all the problems in the world. And while I am a big fan of that idea, and I think deliberative democracy is an amazing thing, there's a problem in our country. Only 20% of the populace ever makes a decision in an election. Okay? 30% of the populace votes.
No.
Less than
Talking
that.
about primaries, and it's more like 50 or 60 in the general elections, but that's too late.
Well, that's too late, and quite frankly, it limits a number of people that can be run for office. So we already have bestowed upon us the one or two candidates that are going to be there.
Well, the two, because they're the two.
So
parties.
let's just dispel with the big vote, and let's talk about the primary votes, because quite frankly, there's nobody voting in the primaries elections. Nobody votes in a primary because it's impossible. You have to be part of a party. You have to be part of, and like for example, right now. The Democrats are voting for the Democrats. The Republicans are voting for the Republicans. They never cross over. You can't go to a Democratic primary and a closed primary if you're a Republican. You can't go to a Republican primary if you're a Democrat.
In Oregon, there are other states.
And we have 40% of the population, 45% of the population that are independents that don't vote at all because they're not
can't
part of the
vote
party.
in Oregon.
So, I mean, until you have at least somewhat logical or legible way to get between the two parties and get a real candidate to answer you, there's no point in doing any kind of democracy things.
Well, yeah, that's what Gell talks about, is doing it at the state level and creating innovations and testing them. I'm just taking her idea and say, well, let's do it at every state at the same time. Let's make this a national movement. Why not?
Because we have party politics,
Well, no,
which are
but
just
okay.
have us completely...
We're going to have the government help us take down party politics. That's what the government represents, the people. But the people need to decide we need
to advocate for them
and
to
we
do
need
that.
to have some kind of common voice, or it's going to. We got to have some kind of
if you're listening right
consensus
now,
or we're screwed.
if you're listening right now and you want to see this happen nationally, if you like Chuck's ideas, and I don't say they're bad ideas. I don't think they're bad at all. But what we have to do is we have to change the way politics works.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is by getting ranked choice voting in all 50 states.
Well, I agree that'd be a help. I think we need to get some kind of concurrence within the population of the United States and quit listening to our particular bandwidth and start listening to one another.
Well, and that's okay. I agree with you on that too. Is that we should have a consensus. We should be able to talk to each other. We should be able to discuss these heady issues in public company and not feel guilty about doing it. I agree with you on that.
We'll feel good about it because we can actually do it civilly and constructively.
Well, there's a lot of dinner parties that are going to happen at Thanksgiving, which
Yeah,
they are not going to mention anything about politics
Yeah, well,
because it just starts a fight.
Well, there'll be probably better things to talk about if you've already talked about politics, and you know why wait until Thanksgiving to talk about it? Let's have a talk
Do
about
it
it
Sunday
before
morning over coffee.
Yeah, before you had rather than over your 18th of beer, or whatever. Yeah, have it in a constructive situation where it's moderated, where it's supported by our local government.
So, and you're happy to be running a show where you want to talk about the conflicts that people have with politics, and that's a great plug for your show that you're working on as well.
There's been absolutely no interest shown for it.
Well,
And that's part
we'll
of
keep talking about it until interest is grown.
And, just reluctance to talk because we're afraid of a fight. It would be all. We don't have to fight.
We don't have to fight.
Decide we got bigger things to fight about and much greater things than that to agree about.
I ain't mad at nobody.
We need to agree about let's restore civility to our civilization.
You're getting down in the mouth. I can tell you're feeling put upon right now.
No, I'm feeling pissed off in general. I'm not feeling put upon. I enjoy that. I love a good argument.
Well, so the listener knows, Chuck has times when he gets a little bit beyond himself and he gets a little bit angry, and
I get let's say passionate. I don't feel like I'm angry now. I'm disappointed.
Well, you haven't talked to anybody. This hasn't even aired this episode yet, so how can you be disappointed?
Well, because
they
I've
haven't
been
done
doing this
anything
for 2.5 years and gotten no traction.
Well, hopefully you'll get some traction now, and you said after the last one, you said you really enjoy these conversations. You really enjoy doing this
I
podcast.
enjoy political conversation.
So let's go with that, and let's hope that we're getting some people listening, because people are listening to this. We had up to 4 downloads for the podcast last week.
4.
We'll double that next week, hopefully. But and I could do more effort to marketing it as well. I'll try to do that a bit more. But the truth of the matter is that this is tough stuff. This is not going to be easy to do. This is not a gimme thing. We're trying to change the hearts and minds of Americans, and to do that when we have a little podcast that doesn't go anywhere to the world, that people aren't listening to in droves, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, there are a lot.
But that doesn't mean it's not worth doing.
There are a lot of podcasts like this one, I'm sorry to say, and some of the really profound and effective ones may have 1.4 thousand viewers in the world. It's kind of discouraging.
Well, and not to berate what he does, but Joe Rogan, he's the most downloaded podcast guy in the world. And it's because he does controversial stuff, and it's fun listening to him because he talks about stupid stuff, and that's why they enjoy it. They don't come to podcasts to be lectured to. They don't come here to hear us pontificate about stuff. But hopefully they're hearing us talk right now, and they're feeling a little bit entertained about the idea that we can fix our political system.
Yeah, you can fix the political system.
You can fix the political system. I'm pointing to myself right there.
We can fix.
We can do it. We can do it. We can fix the political system. I believe we can do this. I believe it's going to happen. I really do believe Americans are starting to wake up to the fact that we don't control politics anymore. And that's not what our founding fathers wanted at all.
And I'm sure Joe Rogan agrees with us, although I've never watched him. I know who he is. He looks like somebody that would tear my head off.
We're not a blip even on Joe Rogan's radar. I'm sure of that. But you know, we're going to make progress with this, and we have to keep doing it, and we have to keep talking about this stuff. And we'll have a whole nother book next week, I think, that we're going to talk about, or maybe we'll talk about this again. But you know, it's the idea that democracy will never die as long as people are willing to fight for it.
Well, I could do a podcast just of my radical ideas, just to get stuff out there. What the hell? And I ain't mad at nobody. I really think it's time we heard each other and shared some wild ass ideas and fun.
Well, share your wild ass ideas here, and let's have a little fun, because that's what the purpose of this podcast is.
Okay, now, what's your conclusion with all this? I can't wait.
My conclusion for this is I'm going to have children showing up at my door in a couple of hours.
Oh.
And the sun is now setting. We had a snowy day here in Klamath Falls, and quite frankly, it is not a wonderful day to be outside. But the little ones are going to be coming. So we have to get home, so we have to give out candy.
Yeah, well, where I live, nobody comes. It's kind of out.
Well, you're kind of in the middle of
kind of out
sticks.
in the sticks a little bit, but
Well, I live in a neighborhood down
and no kids in our neighborhood. So
close to downtown, so we get a lot of kids that come through our area here.
used to live on Pacific Terrace, and oh boy, I gave away hundreds of dollars of candy.
Well, it is Halloween night, and cue the wolf's bane right there, or the wolf's howl right there. Okay, so let us go forth and let's prosper, and let's conclude this episode on a positive note that we're going to go to 8 list downloads next week. We're going to double our listenership, and I'm going to put a couple of videos out to get people to tune into this thing, and we're going to change democracy. Let's end on that note, shall we?
Okay, and I love kids, and I promise not to run any over on my way home.
That's good. Well, hopefully they're not out this early, because it's not even dark yet.
Oh, well, okay. All right, well, thanks for listening and watching in.
And thank you for listening to the Chuck and Chris Show, or Chris and Chuck Show, depending on which one you ask us. This has been another phenomenal episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, because we're talking about some big stuff here, folks. And quite frankly, I'm going to say it one more time. Quite frankly, this stuff is important. And if you want to check the book out, it's The Politics Industry. It's by Catherine Gell, Gehl. That's it. And it's important stuff. So if you want to pick this up, it's on Amazon. It's all over the place. And please, let's work together on this, folks, because we're trying to make democracy work.
Let's have conversations about some of these ideas, and allow me to set up some situations to bring people together with different perspectives and agree how to go about discussing them constructively.
So with that, I'm going to say adieu to you, sir.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween to one and all. This is not going to air next week, but we're filming on Halloween, so there we go. Next time, what are we talking about? Do you know?
You don't know. I just want my Snickers bar. You know, would you canned it over?
I don't have a Snickers on me.
Oh,
right now.
okay. But yeah, we'll come up with something. Yeah.
Politics never dies.
No.
All right, folks. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Christopher German,
Chuck Edson.
and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Chuck and Chris Show is a Charted Life production. Thanks for watching.